The president of the New York School of Interior Design, and it is my pleasure to welcome you tonight. I am pleased that NYSID is hosting this evening's event because it will feature a group of successful interior designers in conversation, but also because they will be talking about the business of interior design. At NYSID, we teach our students to use their creativity to craft beautiful spaces, but we also graduate them with a strong foundation in the business side of running a successful business. Tonight, Alexa Hampton, who's staring right at me, celebrated principal of Mark Hampton LLC, and a NYSID board member, will elicit the origin story of Daniel House Club from brothers Alexander and Peter Spalding, how and why they transformed their small design practice into a vibrant shopping platform where interior designers can find and purchase everything they need for their creations. Yes. Before launching Daniel House Club, the Spalding brothers knew all too well that designers spend excessive amounts of time finding products and managing vendors. Daniel House simplifies sourcing and logistics so designers can focus on what they do best, designing. If, after this evening, you want to learn more about the brothers Spalding, I encourage you to check out Alexa's interview with Peter on her blog, 53 Weeks of Design. 52. I was just going to say 53. That's a typo. 366 days in the year, too. So check out the blog. You just may learn the answer to, if you were on an Ambien high and internet shopping, what would you buy? Enjoy the evening. It's all yours.
Okay, well, we have been brothers for 35 years. Oh, 33 years.
Yeah.
How old are you?
And you just turned 36 yesterday.
Thank you. Yeah, we're not twins. We get that a lot. But forever we have wanted to do business together. And I always, well, apart from when I was doing the graphic design for our Snickerdoodle cookie collection when we were 6 and 5, 6 and 3. Well, I've always wanted to do some type of design work, but always kind of understood that I just don't have any head at all for business. I think it was important for me to recognize that. Yes, I know. Yes. So anyway, I spent my undergraduate career studying design. I went to NYU and studied urban design and architecture history there. I loved it. And there I took a class with Peter Penoyer. It was called Reading the City. It was the best class ever because that program was great. Should have all been called walking tours of the city. But that one really got you dialed into like reading the minute details of buildings. And he sent us to the Avery Library to, copy drawings. And I had no drafting skills at the time, but clearly had some interest. So I produced a not very good looking drawing. But from that, I went to architecture school for one day. And I had chosen the University of Michigan. So it was rated #1 that year. And I got there and I was just like, this is not the right environment for me. Like, I really like the classical buildings of New York City, and this is really a high-tech place. And basically, I operate a computer like I'm 200 years old, which is another reason that Alex and I are great partners. For me, not for he's.
#1
Put a
reason
bun.
I might kill you.
Yeah, exactly. He had to help me print the documents that I needed for today. Anyway, so I have the clicker. I made a PowerPoint presentation in case you needed proof of what it is that we do. So this is like this is a school and early work project. So
So wait, well, where'd you go?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I finished at NYU, I came back after my one day at the University of Michigan, and I knew that Peter was doing a book, and part of his class was researching Cross and Cross, which was the book that he was doing at the time. They were early 20th century architects. And so I was like, hey, could I help do research for this book? And he goes, well, it's about to be finished, so no, but there's this one-year program at the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art. So he sent me to go do that, and it was really fun, and that's where I actually learned to draw, because I really could, I knew that I could maybe draw, but I didn't really know how to put it into building form. So that's a charcoal drawing that I worked on while I was there. And then right after that, I was lucky enough to intern for Peter and his wife, Katie Ritter. And there I got to do illustrations of projects that they were proposing. And that was super, super fun and rewarding. And I thought that I would just have a career of doing that. But no. So I'm going to let Alex talk about this,
And then he
because
tried to
there
play.
is a business and a design origin in our project.
You want me to talk about when you tried to play for the Lakers? Is that?
Very poorly.
No. This, I believe, Peter was put these in because the guy on the right in this picture, both of them is our dad, Daniel. That's where the name
So
of
you
the.
can tell.
Yes.
Strong,
Yeah.
genetic.
I used to have people in my hometown come up to me and say, "Are you Dan Spalding's son?" Who I'd
Yeah.
never met. I was like, "Yeah, I guess it's clear." And he started a business in high school. And actually, he was a third-generation entrepreneur, so that makes us fourth-generation entrepreneurs. It's something I just wanted to do forever. I was like, I want to start a business. I don't really care what it is. And part of the reason I started with Peter is like, I don't know what to do. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
And he was the design side that he was just talking about. I was more business side. But because we were both trying to be equal in the firm, Peter's idea was to name the firm Daniel House Studios, so named after our dad rather than just named after Peter, and studios because it was like a design studio. And that is, was there more on this slide that you were hoping for?
You have
What's
nice
next?
khakis, I think.
This is also,
This is where we grew up playing on Saturday mornings.
it's a blurry photo, but
Yeah.
we used to love to run down the conveyor belt, which was very fun until the warehouse manager told my dad.
There's some liability.
Yeah. So
What was this business?
this is called School Specialty. The first is he first started a company called Downers in their basement. Downers then acquired Jansport. He sold Jansport, then went to work for my grandpa's company that was failing, called School Specialty. And it's not just because of the conveyor belt in our family, our childhood history, that this picture's up here. School Specialty is actually kind of a model for what we are trying to build. It was a school supply business, so really different, but it was solely focused on the teacher. Like, they didn't sell to the state or the federal government. They only would let teachers go on and shop, and they built the whole company around how teachers are working and what they need. And like, even so far as like, they didn't sell textbooks, which is one of the biggest part of the school supply industry, because teachers don't buy textbooks.
Because they don't set the curriculum.
Right,
It's not-
that's the state. And we are really similar to that in that we are really super focused on the designer. And we've built kind of the whole business structure around how interior designers work, what they need to finish their projects, what they need to be profitable.
Stop.
Bored.
So, no, totally fascinating. But I want to connect the
Yeah.
dots of you coming home and saying, I'm going to start a design business.
Yeah.
And you saying, I'm in. And you both deciding, like, okay, and how long did that go before Daniel House?
So we did that for 5 years.
Or before the studio became the club?
Yeah, before the studio turned into the club, it was about 5 years. And I really enjoyed those 5 years, and I think Alex thought about suicide. No, I'm not. He really didn't enjoy it.
It's really
at all.
murder.
Yeah. Well, yes,
Oh,
he was going to
absolutely.
murder me.
Yeah.
No, I think part of it was he felt like he was managing, I don't know, mediocre talent that would not listen.
Do you ever watch 30 Rock and like Jenna locks herself in their
Love 30.
dressing room and Tina Fey has to try to figure out how to get her out? I did feel like that was what was going on sometimes. Like, what in the world is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, so that happened, and really it was. I think Alex's main frustration was that interior design in general, every single project you have comes with a new set of parameters. You know, each client is really different. They want to work with you differently. I do think that there's some ability for you to set the stage well so that you're not changing your business each time. Maybe the project looks totally different, but your business and the way that you come to the
Structure.
project is not different from client to client.
And had you established your design practice structure based upon Katie Ritter, or had you gone from Peter and Katie's somewhere else?
Well, maybe I should. I don't know if it's good to disclose numbers. So so this is the first project that we did, and it's a historic house in the Portland Hills, and it's a little house. But so when I first started at Peter's office, I was sitting in the interior design department, even though I was hired as an architectural intern. And we were collaborating with another designer, I don't remember who, and they came in and said, "What is the furniture budget?" And the woman in our office said, "It's $2 million." And he said, "Are you kidding me?" And she said, "Yes, I know there's going to be like nothing." And so I went into the world on my own and thought, great, $2 million. That's what everyone is going to spend on their furniture. And quickly found that literally every person I talked to thought a kitchen was going to cost $25,000.
So how fast did you go from
Oh, I wish that I
working
had
in
stayed
the-
there so much longer.
It was
So I
almost
worked
immediate.
there about a year, and then we started right away. Yeah, that was, I worked there in 2013, and then in 2015 we
and
began.
you were where?
In Portland, Oregon. Yeah.
So how did you, because there's like, I gotta get there, as a young designer, new to the place where you were bringing your practice.
Yeah.
How did you go about getting jobs?
It was very scary. How did we
This
get
is
jobs?
our first
This was
project,
our
and
mother's
this is our
house.
mom's house.
Yeah.
It's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of stuff I wouldn't recommend doing. A lot of like network is like, hey, let's do a free project and build a portfolio, which I don't think is a horrible idea, but it's got a lot of
it's-
challenges.
You can do it like
gotta be able to afford
You
it.
can do it
Yeah.
like one time, and then you'll be broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe not one.
Which is a big thing that we are jumping around a little bit, but like we're talking to so many designers now, it's like the amount of designers who don't pay themselves anything at all is really high. And I just start trying to insult them to their face. Like, are you a volunteer for are you a design volunteer? And yeah, a lot of them are. And I think that is kind of how we started. And I think if you have that strategy of like, okay, I need 3 projects for my portfolio to put on my website, and then I'm gonna start my full rate. It might be a little different, but we did like 5 or 6 of those and didn't make any money for 2 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, scrappy.
Yeah.
You got to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are even sometimes moving appliances in by ourselves, which I don't recommend. You're not insured to do that. But we did have a couple really great clients, one who we're doing our 5th project with right now. And they bought us an ad in the Wingdam, which is like, Multnomah Athletic Club is the biggest club in Portland. And they bought us like a year's worth of advertisement. And we did get a couple of projects from that. So we did the project for free, but they gave us something out of it. And they threw a party it was in a big building downtown. So they invited all their neighbors, and we did get some leads off of that. So there were fair trade-offs.
And Alex, where's your business sense coming from? Where's your business background, knowledge?
Yeah, well, this is actually the first thing I ever went out and did post-college. But I did get my degree in finance and management, and hopefully learned a little bit around our family growing up, but was applying I brought all my textbooks and was just like, let's lay this out. I focused on entrepreneurship in college, which helped.
Yeah.
There's so much you don't know, though, coming out of that.
So as a fellow designer, I hate when you're like, oh, I don't like business, I have nothing to do with it. But as a couple, you can function like that because you are functioning as a couple. But it's interesting because we all do have to, even if we suck at it or dislike it, we do have to engage.
Yeah.
And obviously you observed the pain points as a designer yourself of what your community experiences, like where it goes up. What were the things that you looked at and were like, wow, this is such a bummer that I need to address it in the industry-wide?
Well, I think the biggest thing was we actually started to get more involved in like in the Northwest. There was something called the Northwest Society of Interior Designers. It's no longer really in Portland, but it's like IDS or one of these big local organizations. And we met so many people who had been practicing for 30 years who still were functioning the same way that we were. So there were people whose work I admired, but once you talked to them, you thought, oh, you're actually not in really a better place than me. And you're having the same issues that I'm having, which are like, how do I predict that I can purchase furniture for my client, fill their home with something that's unique to them, and make some money? Because
and what's the answer?
yeah, that's a great. Well, we didn't have it then.
I was going to jump in. I think this photo is very indicative of the big bummer moment for me, and that is, I think the whole budget for that house is like $9 million. The boxes there represent about $50,000 in decorative lighting. And on that $50,000, which we ordered and sold to the client, we made like $2,000. And I was like, that's not enough. It's really, really, really not enough to run your business on. And it was so frustrating knowing that how much money is going into this project and how little of it we're actually driving through efficiently to then transfer into running a business that can grow and do more projects and hire more people. And I think it did end up being profitable on that project overall, but only just.
Yeah.
And
it was 2 years of our life.
Yeah, and we did get into a big fight because I think there's, Peter and the design side coming from his practice, like, oh, this is just the way it is. And I was like, if it is, it can't be.
There has to be a better way.
And so that was like the transformation point where, I don't know if you were going to tell this, but I actually started building what is now our whole business as like a thing for Peter to have access to with his clients. And it would be a list of...
As a support system.
Yes.
Yeah, because I would go to the job site and I would envision X, Y, and Z. And oftentimes, I mean, it was always like, oh, we could make this custom, which is a great thing to do, something I still love to do. But oftentimes there was a solution that would be as good, if not better, that I just wasn't aware of the vendor. I wasn't being intelligent. And Alex said, hey, could you like consider maybe one of these things that is
where
of
your
great
profit
quality,
margin
but where we're going to make some money. And so he started to build this catalog as a way to manage his talent, I guess.
That's amazing.
And I would say not just like, I'm not soulless and just profit driven, although I think that is actually really important to build up a better company and
I find you quite soulless.
Thank you. Yeah, that's just around you.
I think all of us wish we had a brother like that.
Like, just do it.
A soulless brother.
I think this also gives designers a little bit more power on the job site to not be driven as much by their client, because their client is going to go see Restoration Hardware or Crate and Barrel or whatever, and they're going to try to push in that direction.
Like things you know as a designer that you're not hopeful to put in your project, but that your client is really familiar with.
Sure.
So if you let them get in the driver's seat of your project, you're going to get these things sort of filtered through you. Hey, what do you think? And that's what, if you don't have a good response or access to something much better that's quick and that you know the price of, I think you can get driven down a path.
Yeah, the choice will be made for you.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so we have a client advisory board, which is really fun. So each year, Robert actually puts it together. Robert's here, he's our VP of sales. He assembles a new board of our favorite customers. We love them all equally each year, and they kind of contribute thoughts about what's working and what's not and how we should be better. So this, we're looking at the same project 3 different ways, and we like to do this because we hear a lot of people encourage just time billing because the thing of procurement is so horrifying. Which I understand. It's like really, really difficult. It takes years off your life, especially if you're not making money on what you're procuring. So we have a member of our client advisory board, whose project she's generously agreed for us to look at. So it's like one room, and we kind of assess what the overall cost of that is and what she billed for just her design time, which is $9,000. If we go through here quickly.
So before we
Yeah.
we continue, I would definitely, if you guys don't already do this, and I've been in business for like, I'm 75, so I'm not 75, but I
That's
feel
a good
it.
strategy, though, to like, people are like, oh my gosh, you look amazing.
Yeah,
And
right?
she's only
Oh my God.
61.
Yeah.
Only 61, not 61. But it is good to have these spreadsheet budgets, these fantasy budgets of low and high that you can, which is obvious, but
Yeah.
something we all have to do to draw from when your client says, how much is this going to cost? So that you've had this exercise by working with her.
Yeah. Yeah, you have some knowledge in advance of when you're building the project out. You can look
And
back.
it's based on reality.
And it's based on reality, and that's super helpful.
And I would maybe interject, because I don't know how many of you have been in that situation yet with a client. The client's budget will not be based in reality at the beginning. Maybe Alexa's very, very
No,
nice.
not
yeah.
at all, not at all.
But usually, what's it going to cost?
mean-
Kitchen, 25,000.
Civilians don't
Absolutely
think
not.
about like what a metal doorknob costs to like knurl and like take the metal out of the mountain and smelt and shape into a beautiful object. Like it ain't free.
Are you doing each of those steps yourself? You going?
All of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought so.
I've got a lathe.
Yeah. So this is these are the three different ways. So as I was saying, so if the project costs about $60,000, in this version, she's budgeted about $9,000 is going to be her design fee. That's a pretty small percentage of the overall cost of that room.
And what's the duration of completion?
I don't, but it's probably 8 months at least.
Yeah.
I
That's-
don't
that's-
think there's a
you
project
divide that
that's-
up.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
So you're paying yourself like less than a waiter by the time you're finished with that, which is not sustainable for you to grow your business. So then there's another scenario. I'm going to let Alex talk about it because he's better
Am I?
at math.
The other scenario is probably what we see the most is designers do recognize, okay, I'm not just going to bill my time, but I'm also going to pass on, or going to collect some of my discount or my revenue from the discount I get on furniture, which typically fresh designers
I'm
go.
totally opposed to that, by the way.
Okay.
I do not share.
Oh yeah, good.
I do not believe in sharing it, but I recognize that, I
Someday,
still get asked that. I got asked that like 2 months ago. I've published 3 books. You think like, oh no, I'm in the clear, but you're not in the clear.
It's
They're like,
forever.
do I get some of your decorator discount? And I'm like, absolutely not. That's
What
how I-
discount?
Super encouraging to hear from you.
Kids going to school.
Yeah. So, as Alexa is rightly saying, a lot pass on their discount. Some, even in this situation, keep it all, but they get it from places like these, which are not bad places to shop, but you won't get very good pricing. Usually it's about 20%. Sometimes it can be a bit less, sometimes a bit more. 20% on furniture margin, I'm just going to, as an ultimatum, is not enough. Like if you want to grow a business, not enough. Especially adding in the fact that all of these take different accounts, take different shipping accounts, take different just spreadsheet logistics management of how you're going to figure out where it is, where it's going, and when it will arrive. And the amount you make in this project is like $500. Again, what Alexa was saying is like, how much time is that going to take? It takes a lot of time.
And we're also working when we're not working. We're dreaming about our projects. We're seeing stuff and being influenced by it. Or we're actually like spending hours looking for a waste paper basket that doesn't exist.
Do you bill for all of those hours?
No, and I wouldn't even cop to it. I'd just
You
be like,
wouldn't want to
oh,
confess, no.
that just
I didn't spend
appeared.
10 hours on that.
There's not, not to pick on particular stores. That's not what I mean to do. But one time we did get dragged down this road of this client had a basement room. They were like, I found this Pottery Barn sofa. Will you buy it for me? And I was like, I really don't want to do that. But I did. And it came, and at the beginning of the project, I had wanted to get a chaise into her house in some other place. And she told me this story about how she could never have one in her house because her former boss, who she detested, had led her through her whole house and ended the tour in the bedroom and said, "And this is my effing sofa." And she could never get that image out of her head, and she was like, "I do not want that in my home."
The activity of.
The activity of.
Oh.
And
I just thought she was using it like I would, like an adjective.
Nope. Activity. Verb. Yeah. So.
HR.
Yeah. Totally. So she's since become my favorite client. I love this woman.
Yeah.
But she. The sofa came, it was a sectional, it was supposed to not have a chaise on it, but it did. And that was, we were already 4 months in. And then it came wrong 2 more times because a SKU was off in the warehouse. So I had already just passed through the discount, and we tracked 60 hours to getting that correct sofa into her house. And we can't bill for any of that. So, and we're paying a project manager.
So where were you? I mean, obviously you're itching to flex your skill set. And he is trying to guide you so that you can better enjoy your career and be more effective. At what point do you say, okay, I need, what was it cumulative, or was there a moment where you said we need to stop right now and help establish, what was the thing?
Yeah, I think it was cumulative, but if I point to any single event, Peter kind of alluded to this before, and we went to this NWSID event, right? A small group of interior designers in the Northwest, where everybody was like 80 years old, and we talked to, it was weeks before COVID.
And we walked in the door and they were like, "Ooh, somebody for the marketing position on our board of directors."
True. Like, I genuinely think it was like a couple weeks before COVID started, but all of them were saying that they don't make money on furniture. Which even we had spent maybe a year and a half kind of building this out for the back end of and we finally started making the majority of our money on furniture. And the fact that all of these people were saying we don't make anything, it's like, okay, well, we've got a good market here.
This is white space.
And we can help them and help ourselves. I feel like this is a lot more fun to build as a business, so I can have a good time, but also kind of transform these mostly single person businesses around the country and make them breadwinners, or at least enjoy what they do and have a lot more confidence when they do.
Or bread buyers.
Yes.
I think it is fascinating that you obviously you are helping us with procurement. We do semi-custom through Daniel House. We get, you become a member and you get various tiers, which you will explain, and you can explain why you thought that was an important thing to do. But you have, obviously in the course of our board meetings, I've heard these things, you're very interested in figuring out the back end for designers in order to help them. How are you okay with that?
I was dragged into this business sort of kicking and screaming. And not just because it wasn't something
it was like a
I
co-drag.
wanted to do.
You dragged him into this and he dragged you into that.
Yeah. I guess he got dragged first, for sure. But it wasn't something I wanted to do, and it wasn't just because I didn't think it sounded fun. I thought that it sounded like designers wouldn't want to shop that way. Like, the tactile world is so important, and I still believe that it really, really is. But also, your time is super important. And it's not that going out into the world and seeing product won't always be a part of the job. But you need to keep it organized. You need a way to have that information at the ready. And I found really quickly that I was very wrong about that assumption, because we were quickly helping interior designers.
So how are you helping them?
Scale. What's that?
How are you helping them?
I hate helping them. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
You're like, ugh, why'd you ask me that?
Yeah. I think Alex is helping them and Robert is helping them the most. I think the number one way we help them is through our concierge service. But really what we do is we provide access to about 200 different industry vendors, where you don't have to have minimum orders. You don't have to handle all the logistics yourself. We just make it really simple.
And I don't know, as students, I don't know where you are in your relationship with vendors, but typically opening with a direct with a manufacturer is a $5, $10, or $15,000 opening order. So a lot of individual designers will only have 5 to 15 accounts.
And you need to be maintaining.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
sustain them.
Yeah. So it can be really hard to do that, and it can be really challenging to branch off into either different styles or price points, or to like, if you get to the end of like, oh, I want to decorate this and I don't want to run to Home Goods or whatever the New York equivalent to Home Goods is and grab a bunch of junk, I want to buy cool stuff that I can still make money off of. That's really hard. Even when we were kind of at our peak of our firm, I think we only had maybe just shy of 20 accounts. And that cost us $200,000 a year in dedicated buying.
And are you
from
doing
those.
your best work when
You're running
it's
around.
with the smallest amount of choice?
Not at all. And also, it's just really difficult because the next client won't like any of those 20 vendors that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll
So
like one of them.
show us how it works.
So we'll probably share this a little bit, but we try to be super easy. Our guarantee, it's kind of our internal phraseology for what we're really trying to do here, is to be the quickest place to find and actually buy what you're looking for. It's easy to find stuff. You can open a magazine, you can go on Google. It can be really hard to figure out how to buy it.
Alex used to sit in our office and say, why won't you sell me your things?
Really?
Genuinely, I'd email reps and like, I want to buy $25,000 of this, and they nothing back for weeks. And then I was like, okay, I'll fly to High Point to convince them to sell me that, and then it still takes like 2 weeks to open an account. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but it was frequent in the Northwest.
No, that is the the horror of finding yourself in my position and the heaven of finding yourself in my position.
Yes. So,
but it does mean a lot of my systems I didn't invent, and yeah, it's good, but it also means that there's like detritus that can be cleaned up. That since I didn't put it into position, it's taken me a while to realize, oh, that's kind of dead weight. That we shouldn't be doing it that way.
Yeah.
So I so enjoy hearing how other people do it.
Do you have a really good example of detritus in your own?
Oh,
not personally.
God, I mean, just the way we wrote up orders, our processes were labored, and they were all the consequence of being in a business where we used to write our purchase orders by hand.
When we first started, this doesn't happen as much, maybe Robert would correct me, but so many more, I'll call them more senior designers who had really good, like, where do I send my purchase orders? Like, well, we don't really do that because it's not really necessary anymore. We've kind of built in a system where people can email them and make it clearer, but the idea is this should feel like e-commerce. Like, make it, your client shouldn't have a better shopping experience than you do, and usually they do. And so this part should look totally normal and be really easy. A product page, the only kind of special thing here is we do our absolute best to make it very clear what the prices are. So furniture is often priced in a few different ways. We've got MSRP is like the highest they say you should sell it for. Most likely will be sold at that price in a store.
So that's maximum suggested retail price.
Manufacturer suggested retail price. Then, which the other is MAP, which is minimum advertisable price.
And these will become super familiar to you, like client number
Your
one.
client will force you to know these.
And your client will say, I found this for this, you have to match it, which you end up having to do.
Yes, or they get very upset. So MAP is usually the online price. And if you ever see discrepancy between a store and the internet, that is usually why. Then
you mean because one is on paper and the other one's digital?
The internet typically, e-commerce, even places that have both e-commerce and physical will typically price their things lower online than in person. Like, I was in Office Depot the other day and I was like, do you have this paper? And he's like, we do. It's more expensive here, but I can give you the internet price. I was like, okay, but for some reason they do that. And it doesn't make a big difference on paper. It does make a big difference on sofas.
Yeah.
So if we have the MSRP, it'll be there. The MAP will be there. Then the last price is your price, the designer price, which is really nice. It's another big benefit we offer is that you know what things cost. So even with some of our bigger vendors where we're going direct, we don't know what an item costs until we open up a PDF and scroll through and find it and then do the math to figure out what our discount is at our purchasing level. And it can take 10 minutes to, like, if I don't understand it, like an hour, where you're adding up the different pieces. Like here, it's just right there. But other than that, this page is totally normal. We then try to make it easier with designer-specific tools. So you can build out projects. And you can say, okay, I've got, this is the Sang project that Peter was building, one of our favorite clients. You can put in some project information like your budget, your shipping addresses, and you can have a little bit of information there. That's not that important, but what is you can then add boards. So I want to break this out. This is all meant to be kind of very high level. It's like, I'm just thinking about the project. Or, well, and then you can...
It's like a note, a notepad.
Yeah, and you can throw as much stuff on here as you want. And so you've got the highlights. You're like, okay, I'm going to put on a bunch of chairs or a bunch of rugs. And then you've got...
And I do a version of this, you know, like old
Like
school.
a photo dump.
Mm-hmm.
It will, like, I don't do it. I don't even know what that means. but precedent photos. And, you know, I'll hand them to a young person and be like, put those all together so I can see them at a glance. Yeah. It's not quite the double stick tape that it used to be, but
It sounds like a nice process, though.
What we found a lot of designers typically did was just copy and paste URLs into an email and then email it to themselves. Like, well, that's fun. But this allows you to kind of have a quick view. You can see some stats. You can also share this with your client, so you can involve the client. You don't have to. We did that.
Notice that I did exactly what we advise people not to do and share 100% of my discount with these clients.
They are investors in our business,
Yeah.
so that is why.
They pay us another
but
way.
how do you, even now,
Yeah.
how do you justify that?
Oh, well, the check they wrote me that was separate from this project.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
you can
But yes,
live.
I wouldn't justify that.
Okay, because I think obviously one of our major focuses for designers is to know our value, and if we don't know it, to pretend we know it. You know, like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
So even though, but you actually do have value. You know, you've learned all of these skills. You really actually have value, and you must practice your defense of self-value. You must imagine your client on the phone saying, if they're not already saying it, why? Why should I pay you this? Why does it cost this? And you have to have an answer, because you need to have an answer anyway, but to remind yourself, it's almost an incantation of what your value is, so that you are not a purchasing agent. You are a person with talent who is using their knowledge and talent and eye and special skills, whatever those may be, to do these things. And so don't do what he's doing unless it is this cool entrepreneurial second life to your business, which is something that is available to us all to dip our toe into various business things.
It's a very good point. I think this is never the reason you would tell a client that, but I also keep it in the back of my mind when we used to do this. Like, you would never go ask Restoration Hardware for their manufacturer discount, even though they're just buying it in China and shipping it over.
Yeah, like I wouldn't go to Calvin Klein and say, I want this bra for $8, not $12.
You should try it.
Here's $8.
Yeah.
Sounds super uncomfortable, probably,
Yeah.
for $8. Jeez.
But that is a good point. You can share, you can set the discount you want to offer your client, always set it to 0, and ignore that feature. We can also then go into different checkout options. And
This is really great for a brand new designer who does not have credit for their business.
Yes, and it helps in a few secret ways you might not think about.
I would say discreet.
Why would you say discreet?
Secret sounds like you have something
Oh,
to hide.
excuse me, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we're not hiding things from our
They
clients or
are-
smuggling information, but there is a discreet way that you want to present things because that's more professional.
Yeah. I maybe more meant you will be excited as in your design career to learn there are some other options.
Yeah.
One, when you're starting out, As Peter said, you might not have credit, so a historically typical way of billing as a designer is to collect 50% up front and 50% when it's delivered. That is fortunately less common now, because that puts you on the hook for a lot of money that you then have to chase your client down for, even really good clients.
There's the old I don't want to pay the last bill client.
Yep. There are some trust fund clients that we have right now that are just like, this is my allowance, so this is what you'll get monthly, which is very challenging. You get weird things. But this is like, if you do the send to my client to checkout, we will collect 100% of that. We will pay you the difference and ship it to the client. And you can choose if you want to handle the customer relationship or if you want us to do that. Gives you that option. The really surprise there is we have found customers are a lot less likely to negotiate a shopping cart than they are to negotiate an invoice, which is like, oh, because they're used to e-commerce. Like you can't, who are you going to call at Amazon?
You're a nameless, faceless company.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a name. The name of the company.
Yeah. I'm not going to say they never will, but it does help.
Is there a way to build one's credit? Will there be one day?
Yeah.
So with us, is that what you're saying?
Like if there is this investment and relationship, I mean, I know you're like, where is this question coming from? But it's a good idea.
Yeah.
If you have the relationship with the designer, help them create their credit through their relationship with you.
And you would be able to do that anyway, because if you have enough revenue and profit, you're a vendor you go to then and say, I want a $50,000 line of credit, you could submit those documents, which hopefully you'd be more profitable working with us than you would have been before. But we do also allow, if you do this, build a client, or you could do it on your own business, although I don't recommend that really, is you can do pay over time. So the client could say, okay, I want to pay over 12 months. We actually have quite a few end clients choose to do that. If you did it on your own, it would build your business credit. I don't recommend that because then that adds in a whole new layer of financial knowledge you as a designer should be planning out and budgeting for all of those payments and matching revenue over the given months, which can be.
But for the end client, it's also
for an end client, it's
to
great.
Expand what they possibly can do because they know that they can pay over.
Can you talk about what that just was, where you're like, you do your, does anybody recognize what that is? Because I didn't. What should we be doing that you are teaching us how to do about measuring your
I mean, if I could maybe put it in a word, forecasting. So like how you're forecasting out your future revenue and future costs. I can go back for something we skipped over.
Yeah.
This is why I think this becomes really challenging for designers. Not just because you don't have a deep financial knowledge, but because of the way the business tends to work. So I want to call out, this isn't the way Alexa probably works, but it is. These are kind of national figures, or on the right we have the Pacific Northwest IDS chapter, which we surveyed. This billable hours right in the middle is the cause of a huge amount of challenges. The average designer ends up billing 600 hours per year, which is not a lot.
What is that? Like, how many days is that?
I don't know how many days it is, but a whole HR year is 2,080 hours. So it's like...
Okay.
And sometimes we do this presentation when we're talking to people who have been in the business for a while, and we show them like how they stack next to their electrician. And an electrician is billing way more hours annually than that. But it's because we do so many things that are not necessarily billable to the end client, or we don't couch them that way.
And the point I was going to make is, so there is the whole kind of financial side that's hard that I said, but there's also just the average business cycle. It does not have to be, but so many solo designers are going to say, okay, I'm doing this project, doing 1 or 2, and then they're not marketing at all for 3 months, and then they have no projects. And then you have 3 projects and then no projects. And you've got these big gaps. But if you're doing something like pay over time, those costs are fixed monthly. And if you're not planning out the other parts of your fixed costs, which would include anything like email, phone, rent if you have a space, or insurance, or maybe you have part of a receiving warehouse you're leasing. Those also have to be billed monthly. So making sure you are matching future expectations of revenue, which because of this really limited number of hours, average hours billed, it's really hard to predict over time. If you can get a book of business that is pretty stable, or you're constantly having a given number of projects, that becomes a lot easier. And you can certainly, I would 100% recommend anybody go out as soon as you can afford it. And you can afford it earlier than you think, getting a bookkeeper or professional accountant. You don't need to pay them a full-time wage, and actually, legally speaking, you can bill up, a portion of that linked to the client to the project. So that's why you can afford it earlier than you think you can. But that will save you a huge amount of headache.
And your
don't do your
clients
books
will
on
want
your
a
own.
bookkeeper doing the
Yeah.
books,
Yeah.
not you.
Yes, and your really expensive tax accountant will charge you less because you can then hand them a set of documents that make sense. And
We've been audited a few times, and it's been helpful then as well.
Yeah.
not by the IRS.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Insurance
By,
agents will.
insurance agents, yeah.
A lot of ours audit us every year, which is frustrating. But so there are a lot of built-in challenges, economic, financial challenges to being a designer. I think they're all surmountable. But I think it's really, I share that number all the time because it's really important to think about that it's typically 600 hours. And that's, again, it's not set. It is just an average. And I think you can
should our audience check in with IDS or their community and ask them, like, would they have this information?
I don't think we did this on our own, so they might not have it, but definitely ask where you're working. If you know people in the same market, ask them how many projects, how many hours are you typically billing for? Because that will fluctuate a lot. Like ours, Pacific Northwest is a smaller market, and you can see those numbers are a little bit smaller. But I think it would be very important. I wish IDS would nationally do these kind of surveys more often. I spent a lot of time putting those numbers together.
If we all asked them to, it would we'd all join IDS to have access to that information.
Yeah, maybe we should start doing it more.
We'll let IDS know everybody would join if they had this info.
Yeah.
Well, it's a way that a lot of us, I don't think like this.
Yeah, no.
It's a level of rigor that would behoove us all to apply to our, not like we can always answer it. You can forecast, it's still imaginary if you don't have the clients. You still are waiting for the phone call to get you the job.
But
and
it really
I think
helps.
even big businesses are forecasting things that are somewhat imaginary. So you wouldn't be alone if you were forecasting just.
But if you're not in business or finance, that can feel crazy.
Yes.
Like what? I'm supposed to come up with an imaginary number?
Yeah.
But if you are reverse engineering it, it can obviously help you figure out what you need to live.
I think that's the really important part is the reverse engineering. Knowing an average, matching it with your goal too, like what your personal goals are, and then not just saying, okay, I want 10 projects, and that's my goal. I actually think those, I call it kind of what and how metrics. That's a great what metric, and you can say, I did 10 projects last year, awesome. But if you're going to say, how am I going to do 10 projects, that number alone isn't going to be that helpful. You can then start to set goals that you can measure weekly or monthly. And say, okay, I'm going to do this many Instagram posts, or I'm going to do this many potential client meetings, or I'm going to go to this many networking events. Whatever it is that you actually feel comfortable with, the reverse engineering helps to make those how metrics really attainable. So this 600 number isn't just like looming over your head constantly. You know you're actually working towards something.
Were you doing a social media metric requirement for yourself prior to Daniel House?
We did.
We did. Yeah, we worked a lot at it.
We both hate it. And this is, I would
So
say,
good at it, though.
it's fun now because we've outsourced to, we are on our social media. We haven't outsourced ourselves yet. When we figure out how to do that, it'll be next level.
Clone us, that would be
We've outsourced who is owning that. And I think that's a really important thing. So you set metrics that you can actually do and
So what were your metrics?
support. It's been a while since we had those exactly, but I think we were trying, I know there was a point in time where we were trying to post daily. Which is a great way to build up your audience. And actually in that time, we built our audience from, I think, like 3,000 to 14,000, we also like hated it, and I deleted Instagram and I deleted it all from my phone because like I don't want to do any of this at all, and I would just do it when I got to work. But it took me like 5 years before I downloaded Instagram again, which is why I think being really reasonable with what you actually like doing. I'm not going to say you're going to like every single piece of it, but if you're doing 80% that is draining to you, you'll burn out and quit.
And also,
expenditure of time.
I don't know that people with a really robust social media necessarily equate to the ones who are doing the most projects. I think
right. You might not be getting client eyes.
Yeah, we never got a client off of social media. We got people saying we love your social media, but we never got new work from it. We always.
It's more like a character reference.
Yeah,
like they come to you because somebody said, "Oh, call them."
Yeah.
And then they refer back to your public access.
Right. Yeah.
To make sure you're not an axe murderer.
That's the critical part of hiring any designer, is that you don't get murdered.
We've only murdered one client, I think.
So far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not true.
She can't tell the story.
No, she's not here.
Okay, well, I jumped way forward.
I think we should jump way forward, because I think it's actually quite, oh yes, this is actually cool for people who love spreadsheets, which is nobody.
And yeah, exactly. And just so this doesn't feel like a big infomercial, this is an interesting way to check your own processes. Like looking through this and being like, oh, that's what I should be doing, period. You know, like I should be keeping track of, I was on it, like I've been in this business forever. I had a project and a colleague had ordered a coffee table, and she assumed, as one would after the exchange of money and the order being placed,
It would come.
that it was en route at some point and it had been discontinued. They had not reached out.
Yeah. It happens a lot.
It happens to us too. We don't do that to
a whole vendor went out of business, and somebody
didn't tell us.
An editor had to say, "Hey, what about that business?" And I said, "I don't know. I never heard anything." And it was like a week later, we had 27 open orders and no promise of any of it coming.
So, building spreadsheets to know where things are is really important, even rudimentary ones. This is something we just do automatic. It's an automatic open order report, so you have a clear status on everything that has not yet arrived.
Yeah, this is just a screenshot of my email. Like, I get this every Wednesday morning because I don't know where anything is ever. And then they send it as a full-on spreadsheet that I can open and put into my own spreadsheets if that's how I like to work. It's so helpful. Keeping track is
How many of you guys have this spreadsheet life? Yeah, that's not enough.
Do you like it?
But it's hard to maintain. Yeah, especially when they're like 7 different.
I think it becomes,
locations.
Yeah, locations, vendors, and what again. I don't know your familiarity level, but different shippers. A lot of vendors, if you're working direct, require you make the shipping relationship. So then you're like, okay, I'll call UPS or FedEx or an less than truckload shipper, which might even be a brand new thing you've never heard of, but those are gonna go, and then you'll have to coordinate with the vendor and say, okay, go pick it up here and drop it off here. And this just deletes all of that process. I don't know what you put in here after.
Well, do you have other? It's 7:30. That's.
Oh, okay.
I would love to open it up to some questions, because this is some nitty-gritty stuff that, like, we've got both 2 sides of a single Spalding brain.
We do only have one.
Yeah, we.
Yes.
Okay, so one thing that caught my attention on your Four Hands banquette was that you had free shipping. And when I buy from Four Hands, I pay a crap load in freight and then the white glove delivery. So what kind of discounts, or what do you guys do for shipping, and how does that get worked in?
That's an excellent catch. I will call out, before I answer the question in more detail, actually everything from Four Hands ships for free. We have a few vendors that are like that. But overall, we have 3 tiers you can join Dania House Club with. They're called Pro plus free shipping, and Signature. Pro is free to join. It has no associated cost. I will say the discount can vary a little bit. It's roughly 35% off retail, and then you're going to pay on top of that We changed the way we market this. 7.5% of the retail cost in shipping.
As a guideline.
As any fixed commercial or curbside delivery. You can go up a little bit if you want room of choice or white glove, so additional services your client might choose to provide or to pay for. The Pro Plus free shipping is that middle tier. As it sounds, it has free shipping on everything. So that is the free commercial and curbside. You can choose to upgrade, and that is a small additional cost. There's a monthly fee attached to that tier. It's $8 a month, so not too bad, which is great for free shipping.
So what is free shipping? What is free shipping as a
Shipping
business?
that costs no money.
I know, really? But you have a business that is an online business. What does it really mean to be free shipping? It just means it's taken care of somewhere.
Yeah.
So I would say our top 2 tiers are kind of designed really to serve 2 different types of clients. One is a client who they or their clients may not be, they're so accustomed to online shopping where free shipping is just a thing all the time. So we've built that so they don't have to talk about shipping. And another type of client may be one who usually is maybe a little bit more seasoned, knows that shipping is a thing in our industry, and they have a line item for shipping for their client, or they might even bill a little on top of that.
And you think that we should, as designers, we should all have line items
Definitely.
for shipping, in our head, if not for our client, but we should prepare them because we do all think about the thing. We think about the thing and we don't think about anything around it. and that's a huge tax and shipping.
It can be the same cost as the item sometimes.
Except, okay, I didn't share what our top tier is, and I might juxtapose why to ship based on that. The top tier is called Signature. It's a pretty big jump up in price. It's $89 a month, but it comes with a roughly 50% discount. It can vary on the vendor you're working with us. The shipping is still 7.5% of retail. But our customers who do that and bill shipping have, on average, a 40% higher margin. So that's significant for your business. Business math. If you say I've got a 35% discount and 15%, which is roughly the cost based on your cost. Sorry, I'm probably speaking too confusingly. We have a lot of customers who just say 35% plus 50% plus 15% equals 50%, which mathematically makes sense, but that is not the way percents work.
No.
So it is a significantly higher discount if you're on that top tier and can bill your client for shipping, which I always, always, always recommend.
It's in your contract.
You going anywhere will have to pay for shipping, and unless you're getting a tiny, tiny discount.
And we usually had billed shipping plus 5% just for the pain of accounting for it.
Yeah.
That chaise. Yes. The effing sofa.
Yes, the effing sofa needed that 5% for sure.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Did that actually answer the question?
I think your question was interesting, which is like,
what is it?
How do you offer free shipping? You just bake it into the
And it's the power of muscle.
Yeah.
If you're doing that much business, you negotiate a lower price.
Do you own the receivership?
We don't do that. We do have a list of receivers we recommend you use. And there are some things you can do with us. Our concierge service is really going to try to go out of their way to serve you. We have some vendors who will allow us to hold things for a period of time.
My other question.
Yeah.
So like if I'm doing a full house and I don't want to deliver till install, who's holding it? And I'm so sorry if I'm
No, this was a board of advisor topic.
Yeah, this
so
is what we
Alexa
just talked
answered
about
this the other day. No, I'm just it's really, really hard to do that. So we do try to say, go use a receiver. Or if you're working with a few vendors with us, we can kind of manage that for a certain period of time.
But it's dicey, and best practices, you should get a receiver.
Yeah.
You
And
should.
everything from them shipped
to the receiver, yeah. And bill that to your client.
And from everywhere. And somebody's inspecting it, and you're covered. Because it's always the thing that you don't cover yourself with that will turn around and get you.
And I would say when we did that, we told our clients it was cheaper for them to pay for a receiving warehouse than to deal with the headache or the additional billable hours of managing all of the returns.
And we cannot be on the premises, I mean, we are, but to be in your client's house and have something come in banged up, they know you didn't bang it up, but but they
won't treat you like they know
it's
that.
a problem. It's a relationship. It's a point of friction. Yeah, it's not a good look.
Hi. So a lot of us are currently interning while we're NYSED students. So what would you say is the biggest takeaways that we should take back to our internships to get them on the Daniel House Club to join? Because as you know, sometimes it's really hard to get
Are you a
designers
plant?
I love it.
to create new vendor relationships when they can't speak to the quality and they already have trusted ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like almost perfect setup for Robert. We've worked with a few larger firms that will have our concierge team go kind of show us an invoice that you have, and we'll look at price comparison as one. We want to set people up right, so the first month is free and there is a small purchasing credit to like make a first purchase, and we always say it's like $250, so it's not a huge amount, but like just buy something and see how that goes. It'll be free. You can buy a pillow, you can buy a small desk accessory and see how the process goes, and like it won't cost you anything. I think that's a good way of doing it. Alternatively, looking at who you're actually buying from, just seeing a list, comparing it to what we're offering, and see if we're offering roughly the same or maybe more that are similarly branded.
And then on the quality question, I think there are three things. One, our concierge team is really awesome, and they have touched everything or a lot of stuff. So you can talk to them about what they feel the quality of a particular vendor is, and I think they're going to be very honest. And two, we do some sampling, so you can order samples, again, through the concierge to see what you think. And then finally, on our vendor, we have a list of vendors. On the drop-down, there is kind of a system that sort of ranks by price, and I don't want to say quality, all
Something.
vendors are great.
It's on a matrix.
Yes, it's a
of
matrix
something.
that kind of describes what we feel the expectation should be of this particular vendor's product.
And I totally forgot one point. Some of our firms, so these are probably 5 to 10, maybe up to 20 person firms, actually bill their clients for our time. So we don't bill them, but they're saying, okay, I'm billing for time, somebody's working on this. And so we actually generate additional revenue for those firms.
I would also say any website that relies upon a relationship with the customer wants to hear from you. Mm-hmm. And I remember when InCollect first came out, and I had met with the owner, and I was working out of my office, and we were looking at something, and then we pressed the back button, and instead of going to the last place we were on our search, it took us to the very top. And it was bumming out my colleagues, and they're like, I don't want to use this site. And I'm like, well, pick up the phone and call them and tell them this. They're like, what? We can do that? I'm like, they want to know.
That's very
so
true.
all of these businesses that are relying on developing a relationship with us will take our commentary because they actually want it. And that's something just to take with you about all websites that want a relationship, not the ones that just want your dollars. But if they need you, then they're going to take the call.
And we keep a running list of our, customers and how much they're doing business with us, and we contact those people and talk to them pretty regularly. So
We proactively ask them if they're not asking.
Truly want to hear about it.
Which is, again, best practices for us. Like, we need to think about that. Like, how do we implement that kind of high touch with our clients? Like, it's not always just enough to call them. I mean, our clients are different. They don't always want to be bugged by us, but to have that open, that that's your client, and you've got to reach out and talk to them and make sure that you're just touching base and keeping that communication up. There's so many parallels between between all businesses.
Yeah.
And if you see a business that's telling you how they're succeeding, try and figure out how that corresponds to what you're doing in your day-to-day. I think we have time for one more question, because I'm just talking. And I've taken all the time.
Wow.
We like
So selfish.
Hi. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more from how you kind of started. You graduated school and you had this idea for your own business, and now you have this successful business with a beautiful interface and a board of lots of investors. Like, how did you get from A to B, and when did you kind of decide it was start onboarding employees and outsourcing and stuff like that?
Just a tiny question.
yeah.
How'd you do it?
We haven't slept much. No, I'm teasing.
We can probably share a lot of different perspectives that again, part of the reason finding a good partner is really important. I'm not going to say Peter's a good partner. He's obviously terrible because he's my brother. But there's a lot of benefit there. And like, I probably, having gone through it now, wouldn't really call it A to B. I would say almost A to Z. And there was a bunch in between. And now we're at a point where we're not starting over, but we're building a lot more on top of that. I'm trying to boil it down to a few points in my head. I think one is a lot of trial and error, going and trying something, figuring out what works, what doesn't work.
One of our values as a business is we try, we
learn,
and we try again.
Which is
The values, establish your values.
Yeah.
Like who are you and what do you actually want to do is just as important to a business plan as the business plan.
And
part of it.
I might flip that to who aren't you and what don't you want to do. I think that's something I probably learned too late. And like 3 years in where I felt like I was working 80 hours every week and I genuinely hated it. And I didn't feel successful and I didn't want to keep doing it anymore. I used to not think this way. I'm like, just push through. And there's part of that. There are things you just push through. But there's also, like, if you're constantly doing that, I don't think you're going to suddenly, like, break through. Like, maybe if you get
like
lucky.
I love spreadsheets.
Yeah, this is great. I love working at 11 p.m.
This
and
is amazing.
not having a family. But finding those things you actually like and what you take from there and what don't you like is who does like that. Because there's definitely, I was going to say, from my perspective, like I do have a finance degree. I hate accounting. And those are very different things. But we have another business partner, Caleb. He loves accounting, and it's not like I'm making him do it. Like I shouldn't say he loves accounting, not like the bookkeeping part, but like the high level, like planning out, budgeting, for doing those detailed forecasts. And he has huge spreadsheets, and he'll sit there and he smiles. And like there are people who love the things you hate, and trying to find those. What we didn't talk on, a subset of that we didn't really talk on, but we were thinking about is having a board of advisors, which we do. We've got 2 people here, and we have more. And there's a pretty easy way to do that. A lot of people, we give away a part of our business for those people, so we reward them. I would say it's nice to have some reward, but a lot of people will do things for free. And if you go on LinkedIn,
As we all know.
yeah, right. You can literally go on LinkedIn and find those holes and like message people, which is how we met Robert, who went from being somebody we'd never met ever to a board advisor to a full-time employee.
And I think I just messaged Alexa on Instagram, so people will do. That's
No, I think you finally had to call me because I'm so
well,
bad at
yes,
responding.
okay, yeah, I did work really hard at it, but
No, I think they're like that guy Peter Spalding's calling in, and I'm like, oh no, crap! I gotta.
I don't wanna
actually
do
return
this.
a phone call. No, I don't think we'd even discussed it because we all shudder when they're like, this is a great opportunity. It's like,
Yeah.
oh no,
No, it's
somebody
not.
wants me to do a model apartment. Lose my shirt. But I think a big part of an answer that they're not providing is you have to save. You have to squirrel away money. And I still don't know what a business plan looks like, but you have to do one of these weird unicorn business plans. Someone knows how to do it. ChatGPT probably knows how to do it.
There's a pretty easy one called Lean Business Canvas, I think. Lean something Canvas. You can Google it. There's a format. And it's not going to take you like all the way, but it's a great way of saying, okay, these are all the things that I'm not thinking about, but somebody else is telling you need to go think about. And you can fill it out and see where you are. But you are right, you do need some.
If your appetite for risk is low, then you have to save more. It's just, like what's going to wake you up in the middle of the night and like acid ulcer through your stomach. And you don't have to, like our culture right now sounds like everything needs to be so speedy. And it doesn't need to be so speedy. And we can take our time, and there's value in so many aspects of our business, and the actual decorating part of it. Or when you're saying that, my husband and I are constantly like, be the plumber to our kids. Like, be the plumber, be an engineer, have a great practice, whether it's like you're a designer or you're whatever it is you're doing. Like, we don't all have to be moguls, but we have to have a good practice.
Yeah.
Like a solid practice.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of got mad at my mom when we started out. Like, she was not very supportive. She was nice. But it was always like, well, what if you went and got this job? And I was like, well, no, I want to build this business. And I'm like, this is what our dad did. Why are you being so annoying? But now that I'm a few years into it, I'm like, I kind of get it. I'm like, it's really risky. It's really stressful. But it's super rewarding. If you can get through that, if you're going to be realistic and you can get through those stressors, I'm not going to tell anyone not to do it.
And find the part that you enjoy. And and focus on doing that, because that will be the thing that you do best.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta run.
Yeah.
Bye.
I have twins who are turning 18 tomorrow, and we're celebrating tonight.
Crazy.
And I'm only 75.
Glowing.
A miracle.
Thank you guys for sharing. It's very exciting to hear about the entrepreneurial impulse and how we as designers, it's not just that. There are other avenues open that can be really rewarding, and you are in fact helping the community and scratching an itch. Mm-hmm. Your guys' last name.
Thanks for chatting with us.
It's been super fun.
And thank you guys.
Thank you guys. And
oh yeah,
that.
Yeah, take a picture of that. You can get a free membership as a NYSID student. And
if you have things that you think they should be doing, again,
let us know.
When there's a business that depends on relationships, ask them.
yeah.
Say, I need this for my business. Can you provide it?
Email concierge@danielhouse.club with any questions at all. Robert will reply instantly. We have a team of concierges, but we're good. If you ever want to cheat on your tests and need some help with suggestions, we can help you with that too. We're here for anything.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Alex. Nice to meet you. Oh.
So I have
Thank you.
a relaunched business. I had launched in 2019 and I stopped until we
Oh, cool.
Cool. To see what the inner workings and what interesting entrepreneurial things you could suggest to people. I was curious, what trade shows do you suggest
Kids go to? I think High Point is probably the biggest.
anything here in New York at all?
BDNY is good.
Is that usually?
I think it just happened.
Oh.
There's a gift show in the springtime. Both of them happen at the Javits Center.
Yeah.
And then there's some
The gift
smaller
show does
regional stuff. They do some, not a ton, but they also do some textiles.
BDNY
Yeah.
is,
I think Architectural Digest does a show that's okay. Oh, I still have my mic in.
Yeah, it's nice. I was going to say the color, which I do.
Yeah, and the weight of it.
Yes. Very nice.
Meet you. Nice to meet you.
Hello. Doing well. How are you? Hello, Tifa. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Was it?